I'm Reuters columnist James Saft, acknowledging that sometimes banks chisel clients and sometimes bank employees chisel banks may sound obvious to you, but for the Federal Reserve, this is a pretty big step forward. Jeremy Stein, a governor of the Federal Reserve System, gave a speech last week in which he said that sometimes it may be necessary for the Fed to raise interest rates to control overheating in credit markets. While a lot was made about Stein being Wall Street's new bubble cop, I'd argue that actually the big step here was that he specifically argued that you can't understand markets without understanding the way participants game the system to their own advantage. This is a massive change from the old Greenspan and Bernanke assumption, which was that banks would never do bad things because the marketplace would punish them by not doing business with them anymore. That naive view allowed the Fed to assume that markets would behave predictably and more or less rationally. It helped set the intellectual underpinnings that led to too easy rates, further easings when things went bad in markets, and the rolling series of bubbles and panics we've seen over the last decade and a half. The truth, as we've seen, is that you can't understand a financial market without taking into account the fact that agents, like banks and fund managers, often put clients in bad but profitable products, and that those same bankers and managers often do the same thing to their own institutions. Overheating in credit markets, and Stein says he sees some evidence of this, often goes hand in hand with innovation. After all, when you have innovation, you have a new chance for the money manager and deal structurer to get extra yield in deals. While they may tell a client this comes without extra risk, that's not true. It's always the case that extra yield means extra risk, but that it's sleeping and someday may wake up and bite the client. Classic example of this is CDOs. Stein's second thing to watch out for is new regulation. Same deal. You have a new regulation, you've got a new way to game the regulation, take advantage of it, make money for the client, make money for the bank, or make money for the employee. And finally, and most interestingly, he says low rates sometimes interact with the other two things and create a situation in which people take on extra risk, not for good reason, not because they think opportunity is high, but because the options for making profit privately is high. Again, the implication here, and he's explicit about this, is that sometimes it may make sense for the Fed to raise rates in order to extinguish bubbles. I'm not expecting that to happen anytime soon, certainly not anytime in the next year, but it's refreshing to see that there are people within the Fed who are finally acknowledging the way that markets really work.